وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تمسك بسنته إلى يوم الدين وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد. We continue February the 13th. What's the day? Wednesday, February the 13th, 2019. It's in accordance with the Hijri calendar to Jumad al-Thani. Jumad al-Thani, عام 1440, 1440. After the migration of the Prophet ﷺ. On the 8th, technically it's the ninth night. The ninth night of Jumad al-Thani. Even though it says the 8th on your Muslim prose, a lot of people probably use. It says the 8th, but technically it's the ninth night of Jumad al-Thani. We continue in Kitaab At-Tawheed as we arrive with Lillahi alhamdu minna to the last part of the chapter. We were discussing the last mas'ala or the last matter where it says أن سبب فقد العلم موت العلماء. Or rather we arrived to the last matter where it said the 19th and you have the 20th. Well, number one it says the clarification. It said بأنها لم تعبد حتى نسي العلم ففيها بيان معرفة قدر وجوده ومضرة فقده. He said the clarification. He said that the statues in which they were made out of, they weren't worshipped yet. Not yet. But what was the reason for that? How it eventually became polytheism? Here, now it clarifies the reason if you look in your book. Well, your book, Suhail. Have your book. Don't worry. Just come together with me. So, the clarification. Go ahead. You want to read it? No. So you see, Ma'ash al-Ikhwa, that the people, or polytheism didn't occur yet until knowledge was what? Was removed. How was it removed, everyone? By it being removed out of the chest of the people, or how? By the scholars dying. Ahsantum. So the scholars at the time, they were the guardians and the protectors for the people falling into misguidance. Such as today, the exact same thing. The affair continues to be how it was in the previous time, or the past times, or the times of old. So the methodology did not change. The preservation of the people, of their methodology and their belief system remaining intact, all was based upon the proper ulama being present. The proper ulama, no, not those who just claim to be ulama, as a lot of people do these days. The proper ulama. Those who Allah Ta'ala has given them insight and they are deep-rooted in the foundations of the religion properly. They are the guardians and the protectors, and they are the one that gives fortification to the Muslims of them falling into misguidance. So the reason for why polytheism occurred was because of what? He says, حَتَّى نُسِيَ الْعِلْمِ, when the knowledge became forgotten by the death of the ulama. So don't think that the knowledge was removed during the time of Nuh when it happened. A lot of people would think, come to their minds, that the knowledge was removed from their hearts. No, it wasn't. That they lost the knowledge due to the death of what? The ulama. That's why it says in the next 20th matter, what does it say, everyone? That the cause of the loss of knowledge was what? Was the death of the scholars. So in the 19th matter, you had the what? What came as a result of people falling into misguidance. And then you have the last matter saying the reason why knowledge was what? Removed by the death of the ulama. And like we said, the affair is exactly like that still to this day. How knowledge and the people are falling to misguidance due to the ulama dying and people adopting individuals who are not well grounded in knowledge as their scholars, or people who are people of desires, those who are following their desires. And that's the reason why the people fall into misguidance. So you'll find out, ya ma'ash al-ikhwa, that the affair will continue to be like that until the last times that are left on earth. Is you'll find that those who will be left on the last days in this dunya, in which you'll find that the Messenger of Allah informed that لا تزال طائفة من أمتي على الحق من صورة لا يضرهم من خذلهم حتى تفضل لا يضرهم جيد لا يضرهم من خذلهم ولا من خالفهم حتى يأتي أمر الله وهم على ذلك. That you'll find, we know that authentic hadith, he says that there will never cease to be a group from my ummah upon the truth, victorious, and they'll be aided by Allah. And they will not be harmed for those who let them down or those who oppose them until the affair of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes and they will be upon them. The affair of Allah wa ta'ala, ya ma'ashal ikhwa, they say that it's a wind that will emanate from Aden, which is in Yemen. That wind will come and it will take every person that has some iman at death. Anybody who had some faith of the Tawheed of Allah ta'ala, or any mu'min, or any person of iman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send a wind from Aden, which we know currently of today, which is of Yemen. That's the meaning of the hadith of until the affair of Allah comes. The affair of Allah comes, some Ahl Ilm say that the meaning of it is there will be a wind that will emanate from Aden. The Aden is currently known in Yemen. And it will blow, because the majority of the people in that time, when the last days on earth, they will be in that region. That's all there'll be the people that's left on earth. They'll be in that region. Because the rest of the people will be gone. And what will happen is, those who are the remnants of the people of Iman will be left in that region, in that area. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send a wind from the Aden, and that wind will come and it will take all the people of faith at death, even though they're still alive. That wind will what? Take their soul, and they'll be caused to die, and they will die in the state of faith. So those who will be left on the earth is the most evil of people. So the hour of the day of resurrection will be established upon the most evil of people, the most wicked of people, because there'll be people of kufr, people of shirk, people of ma'asi, people of disbelief, people of paganism, and people of disobedience. As we know, disobedience comes along with polytheism and kufr. As soon as polytheism and disbelief is established, all other sins become easy. You understand what I'm saying, everyone? Because you'll find that athar of the salaf, that the last days and times, we'll talk about inshallah, how it'll be so much chaos and so much disgusting and filthy, wicked acts being done, until people will be even performing intimacy on the roads. Yes. They'll be even doing it on the roads, and people will be walking, and it's just the norm that everybody does. That's how wicked the affair will become. How the hour and the day of resurrection will be established upon the most wicked and evil people. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will what? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will what? He will send this wind, and it will take and remove the people of Iman. There's another narration that talks about, as we discussed last class, where the knowledge in the Quran will be raised. It will be lifted. That all the wahy and the revelation will be taken at one night. But that's on the last days and times. The last remaining days of the dunya. That one night, that all the revelation Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down of knowledge will be removed at the last days and times. After the people, the truth are gone, and then the knowledge will be gone. And once all of what is left is polytheism, then that's when the hour will be established. Because Allah ta'ala, one of the ways that this earth is remaining right now is because there's remnants of the people of the truth. A lot of people don't know that. There are remnants still of the people of the truth that's left. That's the only reason why this dunya is still intact right now. Once the people of Tawheed and Sunnah and the people of Haqq have died and they're gone, and the only people are left are people of polytheism and kufr and misguidance, hour will be established. Because there's no reason for the dunya remaining now. You understand what I'm saying, everyone? Because Allah ta'ala, the main purpose of why the creation was brought into this existence is gone now. You understand, everyone? It's removed. So what comes is what's going to be left, like we said, is going to be the most evil of creation, and then the hour will be established upon them. So you'll find that of what happened in the past, of what took place with the people of Nuh. What do we say, ya ma'ashal ikhwa? You'll find what took place with them, that they fell into misguidance as a result of the ulama dying. And that is what's going on today. To this day, people are being corrupted by so-called scholars who ascribe themselves to the methodology of the Salaf. And you'll find in reality what they're upon is in total contrast to what the manhaj salafi, what it calls to. Total opposition, even though they say it verbally. But in their actions and their propagation of da'wah, totally opposes what manhaj salafi calls to. And that is the days of what we're living in. You have to be very careful. People are utilizing manhaj salafi in order to propagate the misguidance in these days and times. The word salaf is freely used now with a lot of people. It used to be just Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah they used in order to deceive the people and beguile them. Now they're starting to use the word salafi now. They took it up, they raised the bar a bit to confuse the people. So now, I remember like we said, back in the 90s, if you was here back in the 90s, the word salafi was almost as word as if you came with a new minhaj or a new methodology or a new madhab back in the 90s, in the early 90s. Here in Philadelphia, I can say that. I don't know about Delaware, but I know in Philadelphia, at one point in time in the early 90s, the word salafi is, when you said that, is after you said something that was considered taboo. It's like you came with a new madhab. You only can use that word around certain people, or else they think you came with a bid'ah. You came with an innovation. You understand what I'm saying, everyone? So now the people misguided had a keen sense on how to now misguide the people, because they know that the people now want to listen to what? The people of the truth who ascribe themselves to the Salafi minhaj. They know it's the truth because they hear the Salafi speak, and it's like, wow, it really gravitates towards my natural disposition as a human being. What you're saying totally sounds correct. It's clear as the sun in the sky. Allah being above, Allah having attributes, calling to unity as far as being upon one creed and one methodology. The people start listening to that. So the people misguided now change their what? Their strategy. So now all of our followers are leaving off what we're upon, and they're starting to now listen to this. Now let's use the word Salafi. So now you find out all of them are starting to use their word now, in order to have the people gravitate towards what they're upon to ultimately what? Misguide them. That's what you see taking place today. So we say, Ya ma'ashal ikhwa, what happened at the time of the past with the people of Nuh is still taking place today, and it will continue to be like this until the affair of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes. So we say that the preservation of the people's religion is based upon the true scholars what? Being present. And they're still dying to this day. And like we talked about, especially the importance of the great ulama of these days and times, especially Sheikh Salih Fawzan, and especially, I can't say especially, so of how many times, Sheikh Rabi'. Wallahi, brothers, I don't know, every time since the time of 2000, even up to the 90s, it's as if we knew that Sheikh Rabi' was going to be a test for the people from the past, meaning if the test to see who's upon misguidance or inclination towards guidance or misguidance, or the truth or falsehood. You'll always find that name is mentioned. Look at the reaction of the person. What's his reaction? And people now are starting to keen sense to that. So they say, yeah, he's one of our scholars we love, but he's not the only scholar in Mecca, yahi. So they say that type of speech. You have to be very careful, be very aware for these type of people, because they are what? Become plentiful. They're plentiful now. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not make them plenty. That they are the people now that's what? That's present in these days and times. All the respect from especially Sheikh Rabi' and Sheikh Ubaid now, and Sheikh Abdullah al-Bukhari, the respect for them has been destroyed now. Destroyed all over the world. Because of the recent fitna that has happened, that has occurred. The fitna of Muhammad bin Hadi has ripped that curtain to shreds. The respect for Sheikh Rabi' and those ulama is gone. You guys, the circles are becoming smaller and smaller with the Salafis. And trust those who are truly upon the correct path is becoming smaller. It's diminishing and diminishing and diminishing. Trust me. That fitna that just happened now has ripped that curtain. You'll find that the majority of the people that hate Sheikh Rabi' are all in one circle now. And they are all connected in some type of way. Trust me, I know exactly what I'm talking about. They are all connected, either directly or indirectly. They are all connected. All of them have something in their chest for Sheikh Rabi', Sheikh Ubaid. That's all you guys got. Sheikh Abdullah Bukhari. You're saying that, and they use the old term. Oh, that's all you guys got. That's it. Trust me. During the past, when they used to say the same thing about Imam Ahmed, it was the exact same thing. All you guys got is Ahmed. And we know Imam Ahmed was considered the Jama'ah back then. He was the Jama'ah. He was the jama'ah for Ahlul Sunnah, and the person that was what? Having the people and holding the da'wah down and holding the haqq down. And he was also a test for the people of who was upon misguidance and upon the truth. That in those days. For very much the circle of the Ahlul Sunnah is becoming smaller and smaller, trust me, and smaller, and it's getting smaller and smaller. So be very careful of what's going on out there, because you're going to, and Allah knows best, everyone that's sitting in this room are going to run into someone out in the street, more than likely, that's going to say something bad about Sheikh Rabi' or Sheikh Hubayn or Sheikh Abdullah al-Bukhari. There are going to be people that's going to say something bad. If they're not going to say bad to you directly, they'll say it with you in a smile in a very conniving way. Yeah, akhi, oh yeah, we love them. They are ulama. Yeah, they are ulama. They are ulama, but just know when you go over there, there's other people you can sit with too, ya akhi. So they either do it directly or they'll do it in a very snide, conniving way. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? So be very careful. Be very careful what's out here today. Those ulama is the ones that's protecting us from falling to misguidance. Trust me. First for Allah and the likes of these ulama who we just mentioned now, the ulama, Allah knows best, the majority of people be in the misguidance right now. Trust me. The fitna will have happened on these days and times. If it wasn't for the rudu, the Sheikh Rabi', a lot of us would think those who he refuted now was the people of the truth. If it wasn't for the insight and his clarification and the detailed criticism he gave, which gives you appreciation. If the people were able to read the refutations of Sheikh Rabi', wallahi, you would be like, wow, it's amazing how the insight the man was given. If the brothers, inshallah, bi'idhnillah, if you are able to learn Arabic, read the refutations of Sheikh Rabi'. Read them. Those refutations are one of the most beneficial refutations you can ever read. The reason why a lot of people don't understand the magnitude or the greatness of these type of scholars is because they haven't read what they have done as far as in their defense. When the people misguided had tried to come in the guise of the people of the truth. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expose them at the hands of these people. At the hands of these virtuous scholars, excuse me. I've read some of the refutations of Sheikh Rabi', and it blew my mind. Blows your mind to know how Allah raised him in status so much. But this previous fitna that just happened, the Sa'afiqah fitna, has totally disrespected the curtain to rip the shreds, the respect of these ulama. It's ripped it to shreds. The Sa'afiqah fitna has ripped it to pieces. Now anyone that hears or says a statement of Sheikh Rabi' has some what? Reluctancy in accepting it. Ya akhi, he has evil people around him. You have to watch it. Once you make a statement like that, now Allah causes an alarming for the common folk to now not respect his statements, to lose respect. Ya akhi, you don't realize he got evil people around him now. It's affecting how he thinks. If somebody makes a statement like that, then what? You're going to have some doubt. And don't forget, brothers and sisters, the same thing was said about Imam Ahmed. They said the exact same thing. They said Imam Ahmed has around him evil people affecting him. It's the same thing in the past. It's the same thing being what? Done today. No different. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? He said the exact same thing about Imam Ahmed. And what's so strange is the one who the fitna has caused, he the one said this. He said this statement. He said this athar. That's what's scary about it. How a person can say a statement of truth and still be misguided and be the reason of why this fitna happened. And he's the same one that made the statement saying, oh yeah, they said about Sheikh Rabi'. They said about Imam Ahmed. He said the statement. He's the one that caused the fitna. He said about Imam Ahmed in the past. Imam Ahmed has evil people around him affecting him. You got to be careful. Same exact thing. How the satanic tricks are played of the past is the same thing of what? Today. It's not going to change. Except I think the people of the past are a little bit more crafty, a little bit more tactful. These days, people are just reckless. Openly reckless, especially the youth these days. The youth are very, very reckless. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Gee. So that's what we want to mention, because I want everyone to be very careful of who you embark upon or who you speak to, because these days and times it's going to come clear of what a person's inclination towards, and you have to be very careful who you take as friends these days and times, and who you be around. You have to be very cautious, be very careful. We are living in days and times of fitan if you guys only but knew. Type. So these are the last thing. So we said al-ishrun and the sabab faqr al-ilm mawt al-ulama. that the reason for the knowledge being gone or being lost is because of the death of the ulama. To let you know how appreciative we should be what? Happy of those ulama who are still present today, who are the guardians and the protectors of Salafiyya. That Allah Ta'ala has made them and given them the status so we can be receiving the proper knowledge and not thinking those who come in the guise of the haqq, but however they're just mere impersonators of it, how Allah Ta'ala exposes them at the hands of these scholars. Is it clear, everyone? Jayyid. So we move now to the next chapter. Well, before that, we talked about bid'ah. I forgot. We said that to break down the two categories. We said that the first one is what, everyone? We said bid'atun haqiqiyya wa bid'atun idafiyya. As we said, the true innovation. And then we have what? The additional innovation. So we said that a bid'ah haqiqiyya, or the true bid'ah, meaning that there was no origin to it. And we gave an example of that, for example, such as the Prophet's birthday. That's a bid'ah haqiqiyya. There's no origin for that at all. Is it clear, everyone? There's no origin for that at all. Also, for example, there's a lot of examples we could give. Also, we talked about, oh, that's idafiyya. That's idafiyya. I'm trying to get rid of that. No. So I said bid'ah haqiqiyya, for example, the Mawlid, celebration of the Prophet's birthday, that has no what? Origin. It's baseless. It's nothing that substantiates it from Kitaab and Sunnah at all. There's no evidence to what? Support it. Just can't think of another example right now. It will come to me when I come. Ahsant, Mumtaz. He says when they have a celebration of when they say that the Messenger of Allah ascended to the seventh heaven, and then he's passed during the night even to Masjid al-Aqsa and prayed with the prophets, or the prophets and messengers in the masjid which is in Quds in Palestine currently today, and then he ascended above the heavens, which is the qissa of al-Isra wal-Mi'raj, when the Messenger of Allah ascended above the heavens. You'll find that some of the people of innovation, that they actually take the opportunity and the initiative to establish a celebration that particular night. Am I right, Yahya? No. So that's what that particular night, they established a celebration, which also that's considered what? A bid'ah haqiqiyya. That's an innovative practice that is baseless. It has no what? Origin to it. Like you said, all these matters came later, especially the celebration of the Prophet's birthday as it came in the 400th century, probably. I think it came after the 400th century. To let you know that the first three generations, virtuous generations that the Messenger of Allah had praised, none of them practiced that. Not the Sahaba, not those who came after them, nor those who came after them. To let you know that none of these affairs are what? Something that none of the greatest of creation practiced at all. And we follow them by example because we know that the Sahaba are the greatest of creation after all the prophets and messengers. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly says in his book that he was pleased with all of them. And they were pleased with him, he was pleased with them. It was to let you know that they were the greatest of creation after all the prophets and messengers, and they were the most knowledgeable of the religion of Allah Ta'ala, and none of them practiced that. None of them none of them took the initiative to draw close to Allah by these type of what? By these type of affairs. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? So those examples of what they call bid'ah haqiqiyya, true innovations. Then we have, like we said, the second type, which is bid'ah idafiyya, which is additional innovations where there is a basis for it, but they add something onto it. And in some aspects, they even subtract, which we'll talk about later. But they'll add certain affairs onto it, even though it's been established. Such as, for example, as I discussed, for example, last class, when a person now, let's just say, of dhikr, that the Messenger of Allah prescribed, for example, let's just say, of making wudu 3 times on the parts that one is supposed to wash. Now if you see a person starting to make wudu 6 times, 8 times, 10 times, 15, you've now added on what? Something in which the Messenger of Allah prohibited. Person would say, where? Due to the hadith of Abu Hurairah, there was an author when he was showing someone how to perform wudu properly. he said a particular word at the end of the Athar. Abu Hurairah, he said, هكذا الوضوء. He said, فَمَنْ تَعَدَّ ذَلِكَ فَقَدْ أَسَاءَ وَظَلَمَ. As he wiped over all the parts that had to be washed 3 times. The maximum of what he washed was 3 times over every part of the body that had to be washed in wudu. Until he said at the last part of the Athar, radiyallahu anhu ardah, he said, this is properly how to make wudu. Whoever surpasses that number has done something evil and he's oppressive. He said, فَقَدْ أَسَاءَ وَظَلَمَ. So notice Abu Hurairah said a key word. What did he say? Whoever goes beyond that point that's been legislated, he's done something evil. He didn't do something good. Based upon the qiyas of a person, or if you want to think of what is an analogy in the mind of a person, if he didn't have those type of athar of the Sahaba, he would think he was doing something good. 3 times, let me go beyond that. I think this is more piety. Let me do a 6. Let me do an 8. Let me do it. Yeah, I want to be thoroughly washed. The human mind, if you was based upon your feelings, you would think that's what? Preferable, right or wrong? But the shara came for our minds to be what? To be restricted and put in its proper place. Abu Hurairah made it clear. You surpass that, then what? You've done something evil, even though you think you've done something what? Good. Is it clear, everyone? He said, فَمَنْ تَعَدَّ ذَلِكَ فَقَدْ أَسَاءَ وَظَلَمَ. Whoever surpasses that or goes beyond that, he's done something evil and oppressive. Is it clear, everyone? So, wiping the wudu, going beyond that is an example, as a basis to show any other type of ibadah that the foundation has been laid down and you add something onto it, then a person has considered what they call an innovative practice or an additional innovative practice. Is it clear, everyone? Prayer, for example, a person pray Fajr 4 rakat. Person get up and pray Fajr 4 rakat. You did what they call bid'ah what? Idafiyah. You added onto something that has been what? Established in the Shara'. Why not, akhi? It's worship. You'll find the Sufis say, it's worship, ya akhi. Isn't it prayer? Ya akhi, we're not the Christians. We don't do things based upon what? Emotions and what we feel. We do things based upon what? Evidence and proof, so things won't be chaotic. That's number 1. Number 2, also drawing close to Allah by something that Allah will not accept, which is humiliating and disgraceful. To come on the day of resurrection and find that the actions that you did was what? Rejected. So these affairs are very dangerous. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? So like we said, bid'ah idafiyah, such as, for example, a person wants to pray dhuhr 2 rakat, or pray dhuhr 6 rakat, or 7, or 8, and he wants to add on to it something else, or he wants to recite it loudly. He wants to recite dhuhr loudly. We can know that these affairs are mukhalafat to sunnah. There was also a particular athar, and I'm going to bring the book, and I'm going to bring it later on, inshallah. I think it was on the athar of Muhammad bin Sirin. So Muhammad bin Sirin, I think it was on Muhammad bin Sirin. It's been like 8 years, but I'm going to get the book. He came upon the morning, there was somebody praying. And he was praying a lot. It was before dhuhr, it was before the time of duha. And he seen that he was praying a lot of different prayers. He just kept praying and praying and praying and praying and praying and just doing a lot of. So I think when Muhammad Sirin came in, so he said to him, he said, what is this prayer that I see you doing? Long prayers. What is this? He said, oh, so-and-so. He says, أَيُعَذِّبُنِي اللَّهُ عَلَى الصَّلَاةِ or عَلَى الْعِبَادَةِ? He says, will Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punish me for worshiping him? You know what he said? He said a very profound, tremendous statement. He says, لا ولكن يعذبك على مخالفة السنة. He said, no, Allah will punish you for opposing the sunnah. You understand, everyone? He said, Allah's going to punish me for worshiping him? Going upon worship? No, he said, Allah will punish you for opposing the sunnah of the Prophet. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Is it clear? So all of our affairs are what? The affairs of ibadah, as we know, are tawqifi. Tawqifi. We said before the qa'idah, the principle, which is what, everyone? Everything is haram as far as in the affairs of ibadah. The al-asl fihi al-man' wa tawaqquf. The origin of it is what? Prohibition. And one stops and he doesn't do anything in the affairs of worship until he knows there's a what? There's a text. because the affairs of the ibadah are very sacred. So one knows that if he's doing it, he knows there's a text that substantiates the action for what he's doing now, or what he's doing to draw close to Allah by. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? I'm going to bring the athar in when I get the time, inshallah. But just to sum up everything, I'm even read the great Imam. May Allah preserve him. Sheikh Salih Fawzan bin Abdullah al-Fawzan, hafidhullah wa ra'ah. Well, listen what he says. He says exactly what I'm saying now. He says, al-idafiyya, or bid'ah we already discussed. He said, al-bid'ah al-idafiyya, he said, نحدث للعبادة المشروع وقتا أو صفة لم يشرعها الله ورسوله كما لو قلنا ليلة النصف من شعبان يصلون الناس ويتهجدون أو نصوم النصف من شعبان فالصيام مشروع وقيام الليل مشروع ولكن إذا حددناه بوقت لا دليل عليه فهذا بدعة إضافية لأن أصل العبادة مشروع ولكن تقييدها بوقت محدد هذا إضافة إلى العبادة وهي غير مشروع وهي غير مشروعة فهذه بدعة تسمى إضافية. He said al-idafa, and he's talking about what we just discussed. He said that someone would newly invent or add something on to a legislated affair of worship or legislated worship, either in a time that it wasn't legislated or in a manner of how it was performed. So idafiyah is of two affairs. Caden. So the second category, which is an additional innovation, that even breaks down to what? Two categories, or you can say three if you want to get a little bit more in detail. For example, of how it's done, in the way it's done, and at the time it's done. I want to give it just to give more enlightenment to everyone. I'll say it again. How it's done, how much it's done, and at the time it's done. I'll bring my books in that is from considered the asl. I'm going to bring it in next class. Brothers, remind me or send me a text of the two books. I have both of them. The two books that's considered an encyclopedia of studying the affairs of innovations. And it's a little book. One of them is called Al-Ba'ith al-Hawadith, or Al-Bid' wal-Hawadith. It's called The Incentive Upon Newly Invented Matters and Innovations, by Tartushi. By At-Tartushi. I have it at my house. It's a small book. It's not that big. I have it at my house. There's another one. I can't remember the name of it. That book, Al-Ba'ith al-Bid' wal-Hawadith, that's considered also in the origin of teaching people bid'ah of its details. And it brings all the categories of it. He brings of why it's so evil. He brings all the reasons of why innovations are so evil. For example, of how it's dangerous and how the guidance of light of Allah can be removed from your heart if you practice it. And how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's anger descends upon innovations and his people. And the circles of innovations. Likewise, the curse of Allah sends down on those type of sittings. Yes. People don't think, bid'ah is also easy. It's not that, it's severe. Very severe. Very. Also, how bid'ah destroys the sunnah by the revivement or the life of bid'ah, of innovations, puts death to a sunnah. And how bid'ah is also making mockery of the Messenger of Allah and saying he didn't fulfill his mission. Because when you say bid'ah, you brought something that is as if the Messenger of Allah forgot to do. You're saying that the Messenger of Allah didn't fulfill his mission. You could go on and on and on about the evils of bid'ah. You can have it go down a list of it. So that to put emphasis to let you know what the people of the sunnah are, what they're upon, and their hatred for innovations is in its proper place. Also, for example, the Messenger of Allah said at the end of khutbah, what did he say? وَشَرُّ الْأُمُورِ مُحْتَثَاتُهَا. The most evil of affairs is what, everyone? Innovative practices. The Messenger of Allah said himself. How the person that he says that bid'ah is something liked and is something that's loved, then it's declaimed that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ had what? Had betrayed his messengership. فَقَدْ خَانَ الرِّسَالَةِ. Also, the dangers of it in regards to how the religion will be changed by the practices of innovations, of just like what happened to the Jews and the Christians. That their religion became, the light of it and the purity of it became removed because of innovations. Newly invented practices destroyed their religion. Whereas you see them now drawing close to Allah by things which with Allah and the messenger, either Isa or Musa, did not legislate. You see it now, self-explanatory. You see it clearly. How they practice affairs that nothing was revealed from Allah for them practicing these type of what? Practices. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? You'll find that Tortushi, he brings all this in his book of why evil it is. He brings the whole reasons. He brings a lot in his book. Then he brings the categories. And from the categories is what you read in here. It's just a summary, a concise teaching of bid'ah, where he says that it breaks down to two categories. So the second one, like we said, ya ma'ashal ikhwa, we said, the second category breaks down to three types, which is of what? Kamiyya, kayfiyya, wa waqt. Of how much is done, how it's done, and in the manner it's done. Is it clear? Even though it's a sunnah or a well-established practice, but it's done in a manner that's what? That the message of Allah and his messenger did not what? Legislate. Either doing it in its wrong time. Like, for example, that's clear. That's a lot. We can give a lot of examples of that. For example, I'll make my supplications, which the messenger of Allah only prescribed in the morning. Let's just say you do those particular supplications in what? After the morning, in the midday. Around that time. On purpose. On purpose. To say, I'm going to just do it. Oh, I don't feel like doing it anymore. I'm going to wait till the evening. On purpose to do it. You understand? So the message of Allah prescribed these supplications to be done only what? In the morning. So you're taking it out of his what? Out of his prescribed time. Or, for example, the message of Allah said to do this dhikr only what? 3 times. You'll find that the message of Allah said, whoever that says this 3 times, whoever says this such and such amount of times. He bounded the what? The number. So to go beyond that is what? It's a bid'ah. Because you've added onto something that the message of Allah only what? That he prescribed. That he prescribed and he bounded and restricted the what? The number 2. Not to go outside of that. So that's what we say in Ya Ma'ashal Ikhwa, these type of affairs are very dangerous. And that's what he said here. He said that you add on to a legislated affair or legislated worship, either putting it in its time that it should not be done, or in the manner of how it's done, or how much has been done, in the manner in which Allah and his messenger did not legislate. He said, for example, fasting is legislated. Standing and praying at night is legislated. He says, however, if we was now to specify the affair with a time that there's no evidence for verity, this is an additional innovation. But even though the origin of this worship has been established, it has been, no doubt. However, to restrict it with a bounded time or in proper time, this is now adding on to worship in a manner that's not legislated. For verity, this type of innovation is called idafiyya, additional. Another example of this, he goes on to say, Allah, for example, he legislated remembrance, dhikr. Dhikr Allah mashru'. For example, tasbih, tahleel, takbir, of saying subhanallah, la ilaha illallah, Allahu akbar. He said, لكن إذا قلنا للناس سبحوا ألف تسبيحة. Now if we just said to the people, glorify, say subhanallah 1,000 times. Or also, say Allahu Akbar 1,000 times. قولوا كذا ألف مرة, 1,000 times. With no evidences and proofs, this is called an additional what? Innovation. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Is it clear? G. So we'll stop here and start the new class. Like I told everyone, it's important to me that we finish the book. But what's more important is that the people understand. That's what's important to me. I'm just going to rush, and not know that the people are truly what? Benefited. The most important thing is that the people attained the benefit and they understood their belief system. Because the majority of the people now, and I'm going to tell brothers and sisters, what's going to distinguish the people of the truth from the people of fitna is that the fact that they finish these books and focus. The people of fitna, of those who are going to those masajid, of bid'ah, they are the fitna makers that don't finish books. They only run their mouths during time of fitna. When there's some qila wa qal, or talking about this student, talking about so-and-so, talking about House of Somali, talking about Musa Richardson, talking about so-and-so, talking about Abdul Hassan, talking about everyone, that is the people you need to stay away from. Focus on the books. Do not get involved to get sidetracked from the cause of shaitan by people. They only run their mouths during times of fitna. You ask them, did you finish a book from the beginning to the end yet? And Allah knows best, the majority will say, no, I haven't. So why are you busy yourself and running your mouth with fitna then? That is going to distinguish and be the predetermined factor between the people who are focused and the people who just busy themselves with fitna. Is it clear what I'm saying? All the Salafis you find unanimously are busying themselves and focusing on what? Finishing these books. Unanimously. And the people of fitna have what? Are over those masajid where they all gather together upon hatred upon the Salafis. All of them. Waiting, and you notice that they come from time to time, either weekly or monthly, with something new talking about the students. Because they can't handle peace and quiet. It hurts them. When people don't pay them no mind, they see the people focus, that is the thing you burn them up with. When they see you focus and you finishing the books, while they're left behind and they're still in the times of histories of old, everybody's left off Abu Muslimah, everybody's left off the Sufis, everybody's left off all them deviant affairs which they are upon, and they're in their masajid. You want to be in the time of bid'ah when everybody was in darkness? Okay, stay there then. But the Salafis are moving forward, and the people are finishing these books and they're moving forward in their religion and their methodology. That's what burns them up. As far as the emotional men and women that are in those masajid, leave them. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Focus on these books. When they come, because I'm sure you guys have seen how Iblis sends his soldiers here to try to what? How to disrupt you. They'll sit in the masjid making little noises, and you can see that they're trying to move their heads and try to talk. Don't focus. Just focus on the class. Act like they don't even exist. These people are miserable. You see clear what I'm saying, everyone? These people are miserable. They're confused. When they see you focus and you know where you're going and you're clear in what you're thinking, burns them up. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Focus. So stay with these books. We finish. Any type of side, that's why you see when these people come in, I say, brothers, focus. Brothers, focus. Don't I say that? Pay them no mind. Focus. Is it clear? And that's how you should be through life. You have time for nonsense. People that's clearly upon misguidance. Clear. Clear as the sun in the sky. These people are upon misguidance. It's clear. طيب. The new chapter, where it says, باب ما جاء في التغليظ فيما نعبد الله عند قبر رجل صالح فكيف إذا عبده. The new chapter. The chapter which comes in. The severity of the one who worships Allah by the grave of a righteous individual, a righteous person. But how about if he actually worships him? How so would the matter be if he actually what? Worships him. That's the other we're going to now get into with the message of Allah. Talked about the curse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being upon people who practice affairs of worship by a grave or in a graveyard. What would you think it would be if they actually worship the person? Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Or I have to repeat it? I'll say it again. The message of Allah you'll find that he mentioned and said about affairs of worship being done in a graveyard or the dead or grave being put inside of the place of worship. How those affairs are affairs of what? That will invoke the curse of Allah and his wrath descending upon the people. If that is in the affairs of a person doing this upon a grave or in a graveyard or putting a grave inside the masjid, and he's not worshiping that individual yet, and the severity of that, where the message of Allah said that those are the evilest of people that do this, and they didn't even worship the individual yet. How much so if he actually worshiped the individual, even though that worship is being done at that grave or at that particular site, invokes the curse and the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon that people. How much so if they actually worship that individual? And we're going to talk about it. Don't worry, it's going to come. And then when I read it, it'll become clear. So now we start the new chapter off by saying what? That the author, it says, the severity of the one who worships Allah by the grave of one who's righteous. How that is severe in itself. That's tremendous. that in itself will cause Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's anger to descend. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? For the mu'allif here says in the chapter, which is said, the warning, as we already preceded, what did we say? So keep in mind, these chapters are very important. You'll find that a lot of the Muslims have fell in being opposition to these chapters that we're covering right now. The previous one, this one, and the one after, especially. So keep in mind the last chapter. So the chapter that's preceded was talking about what, everyone? It was talking about extremism. Right, everyone? That the reason of the disbelief of the children of Adam was because of what? Extremism in regards to the righteous. So hold on to that. Now we're going to add on something to it. What says now, the chapter which comes in the severity of the one who worships Allah by the grave of a righteous one, a righteous individual. He said, for how much more if he actually worships him? So now we started on the new chapter. We're about to end it soon. Where it says the warning of extremism was the previous one in regards to the righteous. Now we're talking about the severity, meaning how evil this matter is, the wickedness of it, the severe magnitude of this matter, of worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by the grave of one righteous. So now, worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by one, or by the grave of an individual, either by supplicating to him or supplication to Allah. Well, supplication to the dead person, that lifted and raised the bar. But I'm talking about even saying, for example, going to a grave and worshiping Allah by making dua to Allah by the grave, hoping that will be a reason for the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answering your supplication because you're right next to the grave of that what? Individual. Thinking that you standing by his grave will be a reason for what? Some type of good you're trying to attain from Allah. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? That you're actually worshiping Allah, standing by the grave, that this grave has some significance of why your dua will be answered by Allah. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? So now, this supplication in this particular place, you're thinking that it's a cause for Allah answering your supplication. Or even salah, especially salah. Thinking that salah by the grave is the reason for Allah answering your supplication. Or slaughtering an animal by a grave. Ooh, that's very severe. Slaughtering a sacrifice by the grave. Hoping that that will be a reason why Allah will answer. Will accept your act, That the worship by the grave, that it has some distinguishing factor about it. Something special about it. Like if I do this act of worship to Allah by this grave, there's something special or something I will attain or some virtue or some blessing or some special or specific reward. Maybe Allah will answer my dua or Allah will accept my ibadah. Those type of matters is what? Prohibited, and this is the reason why one should not do ibadah besides the grave of trying to draw close to Allah by the grave of anyone, no matter who it is, whether it be either what? Righteous or wretched. Wretched is even more severe. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? So far? As far as making dua, passing by the grave, or making dua to Allah for an individual, we're going to talk about that, inshallah. All right? Dua to Allah for the one who died. I'll talk about that. There's some details in it. That's going to come. And that's if need be. And we'll talk about that. Okay, everyone? Because we're going to talk about the hadith about the woman. I said about the woman who died, who used to clean the messenger for the messenger of Allah, and they forgot to tell the messenger of Allah. And he went to the grave and he made dua to Allah and what? Supplicated for forgiveness for her. But these people, what they're doing is something different. So don't get the two affairs confused, everyone. Okay, everyone? Is everyone with me? This affair, you'll find that people, they try to draw close to Allah by thinking, if I was to worship Allah by this grave of this person that's dead, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will either answer my supplication, or I'll obtain some type of good, or I'll have some type of harm raised off of me. Or something of a particular significant, or some type of a distinguishing factor or reward, there goes the one. Of reward will take place by me performing this worship by this grave. That's totally different now in contrast to one making dua for a person who died, that Allah forgive the individual, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala having mercy upon someone. Is it clear what I'm saying so far? You guys with me? Not just saying it, Suhail, are you? Suhail. Tayyib. You guys like that name for him? This look like that name fits him. Suhail. Tayyib. So we say in this regard, to this individual or this person. So when they do this, especially slaughtering or sacrificing by the grave, even though the person is worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this still is a matter that is what? Condemned and vilified highly. For worship by the grave, hoping that it will be accepted, worship by the grave that has something distinguishing or something that's special about it, then this is what we're talking about, what is prohibited in Kitaab and Sunnah. So this person should now what? If he does it in this particular place, then he has built his assumption upon an evil assumption. If he does it like this. And the graves, like we said, it's not a place for worship. I'm making that clear. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? The graves are not places for worship. The graves are only legislated for two things, and two reasons only. For only to remind you of death, number one. To remind you this is going to be your what? Abode for all of us. That this is eventually going to be our place. And this our final destination is under this dirt. To remind us eventually that we're going to be what? Here. So it could be what? An incentive, an encouragement to what? Be upright in this world and prepare for this reality. Is it clear, everyone? The second reason is to make dua. To make dua for the individual who's died. To make dua for them. Or make dua against the people who are people of kufr. As we know, the Prophet ﷺ had supplications of those, if you're passed by a grave, that you what? If they know that they're people to be kuffar, to what? Give glad tidings of them with the hellfire. It comes in the supplication. And also to make dua, if it's known to be a region or place of the people of the righteous, to make dua for the what? For the mu'mineen. As the Prophet ﷺ had also legislated. I don't have to talk about the dua right now. For those matters only is to what? Is why the graves have been legislated. To take reminder of death and to make dua for the what? For the deceased, if they're from the righteous, to make dua for them. And if he was passing by the graves of those who are upon kufr, then the message of Allah taught about of giving glad tidings of those of the hellfire. If they die in the manner of what? Of disbelief. Yes, there's a supplication for that. I'll give it to you guys later. But there is a supplication for it. For those are the reasons why the affairs have been what? Legislated. For this reason only. That's it. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? And in regards to the women visiting the graves, that is a matter I'll discuss later. That has some masail in it, has some details in it, and I'll give that to everyone in his due time, don't worry. I'll bring the book by the great Imam al-Albani in his tremendous book called Kitaab al-Janaiz, the book of funerals, or the funeral prayers. He has a book on it. And he brings the detail of whether or not a woman can come to the grave of the deceased or not. Bring some details in it, and I'll discuss it at a later time. Fine. So for that reason, we said that the graves are not places for worship. And that worship by it, even though it might be sincerely for Allah, but however, we talked about how the Prophet ﷺ came shutting off all the doors that will lead the people down the road of paganism. And what? And idolatry. He shut off all of its doors in every shape, form, or fashion. And making worship and performing worship by the graves or in the graveyards or in the grave or by the grave or on top of the grave is reasons later on for what? For the people falling into what? Polytheism, where they start worshiping the dead. Is it clear so far, everyone? So the message of Allah shut off all the doors. That's why we're going to cover the narrations where the message of Allah prohibited that lanterns be lit around the graves, or that domes or high raised structures be built upon or top of graves. Anything that shaitan can utilize and put in the minds of the people, especially the people who are ignorant, that there's something special about this person, and to the point where shaitan was trying to make the people gravitate towards that particular what? Grave, which will come as a result of it. The people eventually will start to fall in some type of paganism or polytheism, either worshiping that person directly or believing in some what? Some type of a myth or some type of superstition or some type of bad luck or good luck or whatever type of ways of jahiliyyah that shaitan utilized to make the people fall into. And you'll find that the people usually fall into this as a result of all these matters that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ prohibited. Either by people worshiping Allah in these areas or lanterns being lit around the graves. The Messenger of Allah also prohibited that. Also building masajid upon it or praying towards a grave or sitting on top of a grave. All these matters have been prohibited by the Messenger of Allah. Praying towards a grave, sitting on top of a grave, building high structures over the grave, lighting lanterns around the graves. All these affairs have been what? Prohibited out of fear that the people eventually, if not today, but even later, they will start to fall into something of polytheism. If not polytheism, then something superstitious or something of a myth or something of a what? Of a practice of evil that the people used to believe prior before Islam. Lead them down that road, and as a result of it, here comes their ultimate destruction in this world as well as in the hereafter. Is it clear, everyone? Like, we'll stop here. Stop here, inshallah. It's getting late. Is it clear, everyone? Anything about the lesson for today? Funeral procession. Salah is prohibited. Salat al-Janaza, you have to realize there's no ruku' or sujood in it. As far as there is no funeral prayer with ruku' or sujood. That doesn't exist. I don't know what they were praying either. But Salat al-Janaza that has no ruku', has no bowing or prostration in it at all. It's just supplication. That's it. That you're making dua to Allah for the dead. That Allah forgive them and keep them firm. It's different. That's why I said in the class. All prohibited. That is called a bid'ah. That's an innovative practice. Basically, you know how people do some type of thing as some type of memorial, where a person was killed at a particular place, and they'll light candles and teddy bears or things of that nature. That's innovated. That's not a practice that's legislated. The most thing that the person needs, the best service you could do for them is ask Allah forgive them. That's what a person needs. When he's under that dirt, that Allah forgives them. That's what a person needs. Because what is going to benefit the person of the hereafter now? He's embarking upon the affairs of the hereafter. How's teddy bears and candles going to benefit him now? You want to embark upon an affair that's going to benefit him or her. Truly. You understand what I'm saying, everyone? Embark upon those affairs. Those affairs are innovative practices. As far as those who pray in the graves with sujood or ruku', I don't know what they practice. That's something extremely strange. But, like we said, the Messenger of Allah clearly made legislated of when to make supplication. And from the supplications that you ask Allah to keep that person firm at the time where the angels are about to ask him, and to turn away and supplicate to Allah by facing the Qibla and asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive them and keep them firm. At the time where the angels are about to what? Ask them and investigate about his aqeedah. I'm sorry. Somebody asked a question. Somebody had their hand raised. What's up, Abdullah? That's also prohibited. First of all, the images. Somebody said that how people wear pictures of the deceased upon their clothes, I guess in order to show some type in memory of, what have you. That's also prohibited. First of all, the image. Second of all, that's something that's not legislated. None of the Sahaba, none of the three virtuous centuries practice any of those matters. Of trying to remember someone by having their picture or their image painted somewhere, especially on their clothes. What is the actual belief in that? Is it just from a remembrance? Because as far as I know, of course, give me some more enlightenment. You guys might know something I don't know. But as far as I know, they only do that just to remember the person or to like, because you see they have it in memory of so and so. But I don't necessitate that it's actually ibadah. But it's a reason eventually to lead down that type of matter, down that road. That's why it's prohibited. But usually, what I know is that they say they usually have it written in memory of so and so. That's it, in memory. So it's just memory. But if there's something that you, like I said, you know that people do, then let me know. That's as far as what I know. But they don't actually worship the person, do they? Absolutely. That makes it even worse. They worship the person. That's on a whole other level now. That in itself is wrong. Absolutely. They don't even have that. Besides the actual image of them being worshipped, just the mere image of them and that practice is something that's prohibited. No doubt. Exactly. Absolutely. Until later. Absolutely. It's the same thing what happened with Noah. Except now people just put it on their clothes. Instead of putting a structure or carving a statue, they just put it on their clothes. Put it on their cars too. I've seen that too. They put the picture of the person on their car and put it in the they'll say rest in peace in the memory of so and so. Things like that. All that's prohibited, brothers. Tafadal. Absolutely. Mean dua for them? Absolutely. That will benefit an individual. Make a dua for a person in the absence or in the state of death will benefit them. The believers, the people of Tawheed, the people of Sunnah. No doubt. Absolutely. Absolutely. Whether it be in its state while they're living or dead. Due to the fact that the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where anything you make, as it says, they who make supplicate for their brother, he says, fi dhahir al-ghayb. Whoever supplicates for his brother in his absence, he says, you'll have an angel on the side, and he will say, na wa laka al-mithl. But there's an angel that says, ameen wa laka al-mithl. There's this angel that say on the side, the angel will say ameen, and maybe you have similar. That's not only for the person that's alive, it's also for the person that's dead. Understand? That's general. That hadith is general. The person, people that's living in, the people that's dead. So you make dua for the people who's alive, for the mu'mineen, for the people of Tawheed. And you also make dua for the people who's dead, for the people of Haqq. It's all for all more reason that you do it for them. You understand? Absolutely. It's a righteous action. Make dua for your brother, whether it be in their time where they're living or dead. Absolutely. Say it again. Say it one more time. Say it one more time. Mm-hmm. Are you saying it's a righteous deed for the one making dua or righteous deed for the one who's dead? Oh, I thought you was talking about the person making dua. That has some details in it. That has some details in it of whether or not a person performing righteous actions on the behalf of a person. I'll discuss that later. That has a little bit of details in it. Anything else, brothers? Mhm. It's the hadith is a Muslim. It says, ما يقوم على جنازة 40 رجلا لا يشركون بالله شيئا إلا شفعهم الله فيه. The hadith of the Prophet Sahih Muslim. He says, nobody stands. What's it say? 40. It says, I think it says 50. It's either 40 or 50. I think it's 40. I was right the first time. I said 40. He said, ما يقوم على جنازة 40 رجلا لا يشركون بالله شيئا إلا شفعهم الله فيه. He said, nobody stands upon the person of the dead 40 people or 40 men. They don't set up partners with Allah, so the people of Tawheed. Except Allah will allow to intercede for him. So the dua of the people benefits the what? The dead. Benefits the dead. Jayed? Any other questions? Stop here, brothers. I'll see you guys Friday, inshallah. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.